Difficulty settings in video games serve a very important purpose. Essentially, they grant less experienced or less skilled players access to later stages of certain games without forcing them to spend weeks honing their dismal abilities, or as Dark Souls players would term, getting good. Games like Devil May Cry and Ninja Gaiden pride themselves on their often excruciating difficulty levels, so it's only fair that less able players are given the option of making things a little easier for themselves. After all, they paid for the game, so surely they have a right to experience as much of them as possible. Unfortunately, some developers don't feel the same way, taking every opportunity possible to berate, taunt, or otherwise humiliate their players for taking the easy route. In some cases, not only will the game actively antagonize the player, but it will restrict content from them, forcing them to replay huge chunks of the story or even deny them the satisfaction of a worthwhile ending. To put it bluntly, some games hate you, and if you don't show them the respect they deserve, they'll let you know all about it. With that in mind, I'm Jules from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 video games that mock you for playing on easy mode. Number 10. Ninja Gaiden Black. The Ninja Gaiden games are notorious for their difficulty, like trying to scale Everest with your teeth difficult. In fact, it's one of the central appeals of the series. So much so that an easy mode has rarely been included in past entries. In Ninja Gaiden Black, however, an easy mode was begrudgingly tacked on by the developers in order to satiate their Western audiences, who were seen as less competent than their Japanese counterparts. In Ninja Gaiden Black, a new mode was included entitled Ninja Dog, which made the game considerably easier. It also forced you to wear a very pretty purple ribbon for the entirety of the game, which doesn't sound too bad, but Ayan, the game's secondary character, will verbally mock you throughout the entire game for your weakness, scolding you even in victory. So that's nice. Number 9. Wolfenstein: The New Order. On the difficulty selection screen of Wolfenstein: The New Order, you're presented with a few different options. So far, so normal. But the easiest of these modes are called Please Don't Hurt Me and Can I Play Daddy? The latter of which actually depicting an image of protagonist BJ Blazkowicz sucking on a pacifier and wearing a baby's bonnet. How horrifying this image is of a fully grown man adorned in children's swaddling that it haunts my dreams. This was actually a carryover from Wolfenstein 3D, which did something very similar back in 1992, which actually means that Wolfenstein has been making you feel like a worthless baby for over 20 years. How wonderfully emasculating. Number 8. Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire. Imagine you've made it all the way to the very end of Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire, and just as the story is climaxing, you're left on the edge of a very indecisive cliffhanger. Well, if you're playing on easy mode, that's exactly what will happen. At the very end of the game, you aren't actually told whether or not the protagonist has survived the destruction of the big bad space station. The game just cuts to credits unless you're playing on medium difficulty or above, which is kind of a dick move, as at no point leading up to this would you think that it would make a difference. If you do manage to beat the game on a harder difficulty, you'll find out whether or not Dash, the hero, has made it out alive. Spoilers, he does. I mean, look at that chin, it could deflect a blow from a Mandalorian blade. Number 7. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. If you die one too many times in the latest installment of Konami's Metal Gear Solid series, you'll be asked whether or not you'd like to make the game a little easier for yourself. If you agree, the game increases the amount of times you can be spotted by enemies before an alert is triggered. But there's a catch. Not only will your high score suffer drastically, but you'll be forced to wear the infamous chicken hat for the rest of the level, even during cutscenes. Now, you might argue that wearing a silly hat is a small price to pay for getting past a difficult section, but you'll be surprised at just how often it spoils some of the game's more dramatic cinematic moments. There's nothing quite like the sight of a man in a chicken hat killing the mood of quiet dancing nearly nude in the rain. Insert joke about choking the chicken here. Number 6. Streets of Rage 3. As previously mentioned, there's sometimes a huge difference between the American and Japanese versions of a game, particularly in regards to difficulty. Sometimes a game is actively made easier for Western audiences by the developers, and sometimes the difficulty settings are renamed from hard to very hard and from medium to hard, so that Western players don't find themselves too discouraged when playing games like Ninja Gaiden and Devil May Cry. With that said, sometimes even Western players are expected to rise to the challenge and overcome the odds. In Streets of Rage 3, for instance, the final 2 stages of the game are completely unplayable on easy mode, meaning that you'll have to replay the entire game on medium just to see the final ending. Worse still, after the 5th stage of the game, Robot X will actively taunt the player for their mistake, proclaiming, "You play this game like a beginner." Number 5. Civilization. At the end of a campaign in Civilization, after hours of warring, political maneuvering, and strategizing, aka more warring, you're awarded with a rank based on your performance in the game. If you're playing on easy mode, however, regardless of how well you've performed, the game will award you the rank of Warren G. Harding, a man notorious for being one of the worst, most scandalous presidents in the history of the United States. The wonderful thing about this award is its true implications aren't immediately obvious, but after a little research you'll realize the extent to which the developers were rubbing your nose in it. Number 4. Spider-Man PS1. Released back in 2001, Spider-Man was praised at the time for its gameplay and story alike. With that said, it features a difficulty setting so bafflingly easy that it renders the entire game completely pointless. The Kid mode makes the game virtually play itself, to the point that entire portions of the game are bypassed entirely. It skips certain puzzles and boss fights and even takes away control of Spider-Man for brief intervals in order to complete parts of the game for you. Best of all, during an early sequence in the game, Spider-Man will be tasked with safely defusing a bomb after a bank heist goes bad. If you're playing on Kid mode, he'll say,
"I need to put the bomb in a safe place,"
as if there's no way you could have figured it out on your own. If you have a toddler who isn't quite capable of playing video games properly yet, then the Kid mode is probably a great way to make them feel like they're actually accomplishing something. But I am not a baby. I'm a man with bills to pay and avocados in my fridge, and I only completed the game on Kid mode as a joke, I swear, not because I got stuck on the Scorpion fight. Number 3. King's Quest VI. Since the very first entry in this series, one of the central appeals of the King's Quest franchise has been the adventure itself. From the original all the way up to last year's remake, the games have showcased a variety of environments, enemies, and characters, and emphasized considerably your interactions with those around you. In King's Quest VI, however, the player is given two very distinct options: a quick route and a much longer route. The correct route is the long one, at least according to the developers, as the short route bypasses several side quests and even huge chunks of the main quest as well. If you do take the short route, Cosima will lament all of the missed opportunities and experiences, suggesting that while you have indeed managed to finish the game, you've missed a lot of important stuff. Number 2. Monkey Island 2: LeChuck's Revenge. A point-and-click adventure game, Monkey Island and puzzle solving are so intrinsically connected that it's hard to imagine one existing without the other, kind of like the Olsen twins. With that said, there's a mode in Monkey Island 2: LeChuck's Revenge called Light Mode, which actually solves many of the puzzles for you. Perhaps motivated by complaints from players who struggled with some of the more difficult puzzles from the first game, Light Mode was introduced and described in the game's manual as being for beginners and magazine reviewers. Poking fun at critics' time restraints, the mode doesn't hint or suggest at possible solutions, just blatantly solves the puzzles on your behalf. My dignity. Number 1. Twisted Metal 2. Sequel to the incredibly popular Twisted Metal, Twisted Metal 2 improved on nearly everything about the first game, including the franticness and unpredictability of the gameplay. As such, the game offered players the option of playing on easy mode, which is only fair given how incredibly off-putting the series is for new players unfamiliar with the series' speed and intensity. What they don't tell you when you select this mode is that it effectively ends the game after the first boss, literally putting a stop sign in front of the player that reads, "No losers allowed." The sign isn't too far into the game, so it's not like you have to replay much of it, but god damn did it feel like a slap in the clutch. And that's the end of our list. Got any other games which chastise you like a child? Well then drop us a message in the comments below. And if you want to coddle me publicly, then baby you can do so here and here. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more, then like, share and subscribe. I'm Jules for WhatCulture.com and I'll see you soon.